Welcome to GAB with ALisa Profiles. Today we're going to profile youth pastor Gerard Torrez. Did you ever wonder why some people grow up and decide, I am going to serve. I'm going to take care of other people. I'm not going to get the big job with the big cash register with the big payoff. I wonder that too. So we're going to find out. We're going to talk to youth pastor new to St. Mary's County and find out some exciting things that are coming up in our community for our youth. When we come back, GAB with ALisa Profiles, as we profile youth pastor Gerard Torrez. We'll be back in a moment. You're watching MetroCast Channel 10.
Life is a journey. Every day is a chance to do more, be more, and be better. Hi, I'm Dawn Campbell. Join me on this journey to be your best, whether you're working in a cubicle, managing a full house, or entering a new chapter of life. If you feel good, you look good, inside and out. Join me each week for Be Your Best on MetroCast Channel 10. We can do it together. Be Your Best is brought to you by Burris' Old Town Insurance, an independent agent representing Erie Insurance Group.
Why smart people buy their used cars from Jack Fitzgerald. Reason number 1.
The most important reason to buy a car from us is our 138-point inspection report. We check the car out thoroughly, and we put a copy of that report in your glove compartment so that you know as much about that car as we do before you buy it.
Shop our entire used car inventory at fitzmall.com.
And that's the Fitz way. There's just no better way to go.
Welcome back to GAB with ALisa Profiles. I'm ALisa Casas. Thanks for joining me. Sit back, grab a glass of tea. We have a wonderful program for you today as we profile Gerard Torrez, youth pastor at South Point Church here in St. Mary's County. First of all, I'd like to welcome you because you are new to our area from Denver, Colorado.
Yes, thank you very much.
Have you gotten used to our area? I know it's a big change in culture.
Yeah, we're getting there. It's definitely a welcoming place, and my family's starting to adjust well. Kids love the school that they're in now, and so yeah, it's exciting.
Wonderful. I started out the program asking people if they ever wondered why people decide to get into certain fields to serve. You know, there are teachers, Peace Corps volunteers, missionaries, pastors, and what have you, and everybody knows that all of those fields you spend more than 40 hours a week, and it's given that's going to be more than 40 hours a week, and you give far more than you'll ever pull in as far as financial gain to do this. And a lot of people wonder why people choose to do that. So that's kind of where I'd like to go with you as we profile you and talk a little bit about your history, where you are today, and what your vision for young people in our community and also across the United States is. So let's talk a little bit about you. You come from Denver. What's your background like?
Well, I didn't grow up in a Christian home. And at a very early age, there was some things that weren't necessarily, I guess, what you would call, the right path. My parents were alcoholics. Okay. And they, partied every weekend. A lot of my family were involved in gangs, drugs, alcohol. Still to this day, some of my family are still addicted to crack cocaine, heroin, things like that. So my background is really engulfed in that. Okay. And so I'm very lucky to be where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. Luckily, my parents accepted Christ in July of 1995. I pretty much did anything you could think of. I did. Got involved in gangs, partied, drank, made a lot of bad choices.
Can I interrupt you there and talk to you for a moment about that? A lot of the youth that are going to be watching this show are going to say, "Hey, I don't have that going on. I'm not necessarily walking the right path, but I don't have that going on, and that's not going on in my family." But I think it's important when you talk about it because you have an array of experience from coming from some of the deepest, darkest beginnings. What was it like in your home going through those things?
It was interesting. Now looking back, where I'm at today, it was pretty difficult emotionally because there was a lot of confusion on how you would see life because you would think that was normal, and that's what everybody was going through, such as the sexual abuse, the alcoholism, the physical abuse beyond regular discipline. So it's interesting to me that, you know, for me, sorry, I just really feel like people don't really know what you go through.
Right.
And when you experience it and you're struggling with, you know, finding out who you are and your identity, but then come to find out the people that are supposed to love you are the ones causing the abuse. And so there's a lot of hate that ends up building up, and I resented my parents, and it actually came to the point where I blamed them for everything that happened. And I actually plotted to actually kill my parents.
Goodness gracious.
And obviously I knew where my parents' guns were and for hunting and things like that. So I hated my life. That's just where I was at, and at a young age. And you know, I guess from the time that I was 9 until I was 14 years old, you know, being heavily engulfed in gang activity and hanging out with the wrong crowd, looking for acceptance, and so there's confusion, there's the bitterness and the hatred for the things that were allowed, or in my opinion at that time, they were allowing it because I thought that they were aware that everything that was going on, and so it just came to that place where I wanted out, and that was my escape.
And as far as you knew, out was going to be violence.
Exactly.
And I appreciate you being so transparent and so honest about your background, not because everybody that's watching comes from this, but I think when you are in a position of authority or leadership or guidance, that the people that you're leading and guiding need to understand that you have not just book knowledge, but you have wisdom and understanding. And a lot of teenagers, I think, and young people, they go through confusion, they go through identity crisis. And even if things are okay at home, there's still frustration with parental ways versus the ways that you want to go. And I think that that's very important to be relatable since you've become a youth pastor. Obviously, July of 1995
yes, correct,
is a very pivotal moment in your life, and that's, I think, where the sunshine comes in. So I want to take a quick break, but when we come back, you've talked about the darkness up until 1995. I want to talk about what happened after 1995 and then move into today and where things are going with the youth in our community. And again, I wanted to say thank you because I think there are a lot of people that are watching that are wounded, and to see somebody who has walked through deep, dark things and come out on the other side with a message of survival for themselves and a message of hope for other people, I think is to be incredibly commended. So we'll come back in just a moment as we continue to profile Youth Pastor Gerard Torrez on GAB with ALisa Profiles on MetroCast Channel 10.
In financing, our focus is on saving you money and getting you the best terms. And our customers will tell you that.
I had a bad experience someplace else. All she wanted me to do the minute I walked in wasn't look at cars, was fill out a credit app. So when I came here, they were all about me, not about closing a deal. I feel so compelled to tell everybody that buying a car as a single woman, it can be really fun. My name is Cheryl, and I am an ecstatic Fitzgerald customer.
You're watching GAB with ALisa Profiles on MetroCast Channel 10. I love stories about hope. Every single one of us on the planet goes through deep, dark times in our lives, but it's the hope for a better tomorrow that makes us hold out. And I love presenting stories such as yours to people. So if they're going through a dark place or they're trying to figure out what life is all about, they can look at someone else and say, hey, that person did it. Maybe I can do it too. And in the first segment, we were talking about your life prior to becoming a youth pastor. When you were growing up, you dealt with gangs, living in Denver. You were in a gang. Alcohol, physical abuse, what have you, going on in your family. Then in July of 1995, and you know what, every time I say that to you, you smile.
Yeah.
You can tell that's the moment your life completely changed. What happened in your family in July of 1995?
My parents heard a gospel presentation. It was actually from our family members that got saved a year prior to that. And those family members, our cousins, were basically my mom and dad's best friends. They're the ones who partied together. the mothers went out and got tattoos together, one night when they were partying and whatnot. So it was they were very, very close. So when our cousins got saved, that changed the dynamic of their relationship.
Sure.
And so little by little, prior to July of 1995, was there were little moments where they were talking about, well, why don't you drink anymore, or why don't you party anymore? And our cousins had the opportunity to explain exactly why they are the way they are now. And my parents always, for the 4th of July, planned a weekend getaway to go to their house in Springer, New Mexico. And and the week prior to that, we planned on doing some remodeling, get new carpet in, and it just seemed like everything was falling apart. Parents had a huge fight, because of finances, and of course alcohol was involved. The carpet people didn't show up on time, so it almost seemed like something was trying to prevent this weekend from happening.
Ha!
And so I thought it was interesting, just all the brokenness that up until that point, and how crazy I got kicked out of school 3 weeks before the school year ended that summer. Luckily, they allowed me to finish, and that was as a result of a rival gang member coming to the school wanting to kill me, basically. And luckily, the principal was right there, and the principal almost got stabbed. They found out that it was me that they were looking for, so I got expelled. And so that whole summer was a transition, so to speak. I wanted something different. And so my parents, they ended up going to my cousin's house in Springer, New Mexico. And July 3rd, they were up, they played softball all day, they hung out all day, started talking more in depth into their relationship with God, the newfound relationship, I should say, because I was born and raised Catholic. So I did my first my communion, my confirmation. So we understood who Jesus was, but we didn't really have any real connection. And so they stood up all night talking to them about God and the reason they have this relationship compared to what religion normally says, that you got to do certain things in order to gain forgiveness. And stood up all night, and they invited their pastor, my cousin's pastor, to come to the house. And this was the moment. I was sitting in the living room, I remember waking up and just watching some cartoons or whatever, and the moment the pastor walked in the door, immediately my parents broke down and started weeping, and for the first time I watched them weep uncontrollably. And didn't know anything about it, didn't fully understand what was going on, but the pastor came in and just started praying for them, and gave them a clear gospel presentation and asked them if they wanted to respond. And that was the moment that I knew things were going to be moving in a different direction. Nobody had to tell them to stop drinking. Nobody had to tell them to get rid of all of the things at home. We had a bar in our basement. They didn't give the alcohol away. They dumped it down the drain. Got rid of all of the pornography that was in the home. Just everything you can think of that was causing destruction in the home, they got rid of.
I think that is amazing, and I think that probably speaks to what your destiny was, that there was something that had to happen that was so incredibly dramatic and poignant and in a very brief moment. I don't think probably that happens for everybody, but it was obvious that you would have a destiny because events changed and it was dramatic on the spot. And moving forward, obviously, you accepted Christ into your life and you started on to a new path. And I think what we want to talk about, we're going to take a quick break, but what we want to talk about next is you went from all of that to now you're in a position as a youth pastor. And my very favorite thing about talking to people on this program is I love people that love what they do. And anytime talk to you about your kids, your 3 beautiful kids with your wife, but also your youth kids, you light up and you just really have something inside of you that says, this is good and this is what I'm going to do. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk about what it's like to be a youth pastor and in today's area, and then we'll talk about your kids too.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be back in just a moment. You're watching GAB with ALisa Profiles as we profile Gerard Torrez, youth pastor for South Point Church. We'll be back in a moment. You're watching MetroCast Channel 10.
Life is a journey. Every day is a chance to do more, and be better. Hi, I'm Dawn Campbell. Join me on this journey to be your best, whether you're working in a cubicle, managing a full house, or entering a new chapter of life. If you feel good, you look good, inside and out. Join me each week for Be Your Best on MetroCast Channel 10. We can do it together. Be Your Best is brought to you by Burris's Old Town Insurance, an independent agent representing Erie Insurance Group.
Hi, this is James Lepore. Do you know what St. Mary's County is buzzing about? If you don't, then tune into MetroCast Channel 10 to find out. The Buzz is a weekly entertainment program featuring artists, performers, and entertainers from the area. Find out where the hot spots for entertainment are this weekend. We've got the scoop on all the fun each week on The Buzz. The Buzz is brought to you on MetroCast Channel 10 by Birch Propane. Efficient, environmentally friendly propane. Call for details, 301-373-2131.
You're watching GAB with ALisa Profiles on MetroCast Channel 10 as we profile youth pastor Gerard Torrez. Gerard, we talked about your background, rough and tough, deep and dark, in Colorado, and all the things that you went through. Big life change, and you decided to follow Christ, and your family changed. All the dynamics in a really rough family life changed, and coming out of that, being in gangs, having been abused, the whole 9 yards, and you decide to be a youth pastor. How did that decision come about? Because everybody knows you're not going to become rich being a youth pastor.
Yeah, at a very year after I got saved, there was this moment that I hit where I was just like, you know what? I'm tired of putting on this facade, making people think that everything's okay. I was still struggling with some things. And I just made a decision that I was going to be real and I was going to follow God 100%. And it was during that time that I realized very quickly that I wanted to help young people kind of sort of prevent.
Not feel the way you felt.
Not feel the way I felt,
right.
Prevent them from going through what I went through. And what better way than to get involved in youth ministry? And so I started, when I was 16 years old, I got involved in small groups and started leading Bible studies at my school and started leading worship. And in all the events that we did, I started my own Christian rap group and started traveling and performing with Submitted Ministry was the name. And we were recorded on a nationally recorded album with Preachers in the Hood back then. That's really way back then when Christian rap started.
Sure.
And so it was very interesting. Like it was during those pivotal years where being involved in ministry and traveling and performing and going to detention centers where these broken young people are that are struggling with gangs and drugs and alcohol and abuse and all that stuff. So I just realized very quickly that this is what I want to do long term. And after I graduated high school, I traveled with an organization called Living Proof and Primary Focus. And it was an amazing opportunity for growth in ministry. I was traveling full time for 3 years. And then after that third year, they asked me to come on staff as an admin. So I was a director of scheduling and ended up becoming the team pastor of the ministry. And after that 10 years, my contract was up, and the church that I got saved at in Denver, Praise Center Church, they invited me to be their youth pastor. And so that's really where it all started. It was started because I knew that I wanted young people to see Jesus in order to prevent them from going through what I went through.
Sure, and you have such credibility and such authenticity when people talk to you. They know that you know what you're talking about. Let's talk about St. Mary's County Youth. What do you see as a vision for the youth in this community going forward? Because you've been here, how long have you been here now?
A little over 3 months now.
That's right, and you are everywhere. I've seen you at football games, I've seen you at other sporting events, I've seen you anywhere there's more than 2 youth gathered together, you're there. So obviously you really are working hard to be a part of the youth community. What do you see for St. Mary's County Youth going forward?
My vision for St. Mary's Youth, whether you're a Methodist, Baptist, whatever background, faith background you have, or maybe no faith background, my vision is to see young people come together and love Jesus, love God, love people, kind of very simple mindset, but that are not afraid of talking to their friends about God.
Okay.
And but not only that, just loving people regardless of what their background is, loving young people.
Let me stop you there for a second, because to youth, that is a concept and a philosophy. When you would speak to a young person, say, I want you to love other people, what does that mean? Specifically, an action item, when you tell a young person, I want you to love other people, what does that mean to them?
Basically what that would mean is that we have to literally make a deliberate decision, regardless of what people look like, regardless of what's the color of their skin they have, regardless of whether they have a faith background or don't have a faith background, or come from a broken home or a blended home, or whatever it is. They have to realize that they need to look at that person as family, as somebody that they would be willing to just wrap their arms around, regardless of how they act, how they speak, how they dress. And so I think that would probably be the one good way to, as an action step, and say, hey, this is what we can do.
Do you think, considering such diverse economic backgrounds, diverse racial backgrounds, diverse educational backgrounds, do you think that is a realistic vision for our youth?
I think it is possible.
Okay.
I think it's very much possible, and I think God is in the business of connecting people and connecting the disconnected, like our vision at South Point, which is connecting the disconnected to a Christ community and cause. And I think if we find something that they can grab a hold of, a cause that they can put their effort into, then we can do more together than we can do separately.
Everybody wants to have meaning and everybody wants to be a part. Real quickly, I want to ask you a question. If there's somebody watching, they say, hey, I think I might like to know that guy or be a part of his youth group. South Point obviously is a church in St. Mary's County, but who can participate in the youth group?
Everyone is welcome.
Okay.
And whether you, for basically from 4th grade all the way through 12th grade, that's what I oversee at South Point Church, and we welcome everybody, and it doesn't matter what your background is. So
wonderful. Well, it's been so great to talk to you. Welcome from Denver, Colorado. Hopefully
thank you so much.
You and your beautiful wife and your 3 adorable, they are adorable, 3 adorable kids just really knit in and become such a part of this community for years to come. I like your vision. I like hearing what our youth can look forward to. So welcome, and we'll be thinking of you in the coming months and years as you do your thing.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, ALisa.
Thanks for joining us on GAB with ALisa Profiles, as we've spoken to Gerard Torrez, youth pastor for South Point Church, and the vision for our community and our youth. Remember, there's always, always, always daylight at the end of a dark night. That's going to be it for this episode of GAB with ALisa Profiles. We'll see you next time. You're watching MetroCast Channel 10.